Welcome to the Niche Pursuits podcast. Today we're joined by KK Ezekiel, and he's joining us to share and talk through his website, which is a troubleshooting website in the tech space. The website is currently getting right around 1 million page views per month, and it's earning anywhere from like $13,000, $15,000, $17,000 per month, monetized mainly by ads. And it's a really fascinating journey that he walks us through. He started this site when he was just 17 years old, and kind of made a lot of the mistakes. Wasn't really focused on a lot of the things that are necessary to succeed, and started kind of revisiting the site a couple years ago. So he walks us through basically what he did to get this site going, and then what he did to grow it. First, he started by going through a comprehensive content update process. He did that to over 400 of his older articles that he had written, but not really written correctly. He walks us through the process he took. He gets into depth. Everything he shares is really, really detailed about how he goes into Google Search Console and makes updates on these articles. If you have older articles or articles that you feel aren't really written as well as they need to be, great tips from him on that. We then talk about how he started going after new keywords, and he has written a bunch of content over the last couple of years, how he does his keyword research, and he shares, again, really in-depth ideas about how to extract max value out of keywords you find on places like forums, Quora, Reddit, and YouTube. He's got some insights I've personally never heard before, and they're really good. We talk about how to grow a team. He's not doing all the writing nowadays, how he hires, some great insights on what he looks for in writers and how he tests them, and other thoughts on growing his website and his goals and aspirations for it. I really hope you enjoy all of the stuff that KK has to share. There's some really great nuggets in here, and I'm sure you're going to get a lot out of it. Enjoy. Did you know that texting is the most convenient way to reach your customers? We talk a lot about email marketing here on the podcast, but I often hear many of you say, hey, I don't really even open a majority of the emails I get. You also hear of social media marketing as being a great way to reach your customers, but we know that really only a small fraction of your audience will ever even see your posts. But what about text messages all at once? You can have two-way conversations with them. And you can trigger automated text messages for things like appointment reminders, text for info programs, sending files back and forth, pretty much anything that you can think of. Plans with simple texting start at $29 a month, but you can get a special promo by being a Niche Pursuits listener. Text niche to 823-2TRY-SMS, and you'll get an additional 500 credits added to your simple texting account. Let me read that to you again. Text niche to 833-287-9767. And you'll get an additional 500 credits with simple texting. All right, welcome back to the Niche Pursuits podcast. My name is Jared Bauman, and today we are joined by KK Ezekiel. Welcome on board, KK.
Hi, Jared. How are you?
I'm doing very, very well. Thank you for joining us. We ironed out a few of the technical difficulties here before recording, so I think we're off to the races. We're going to have a really good interview here today.
Sounds good.
Hey, so I'm really excited to share about your journey and your website because you have a really awesome success story, and I think there's a lot we're going to learn from it today. And I always love when we kind of deep dive one specific website. I feel like there's so many questions we get to get some answers to. But before we move into that, tell us about yourself, your journey, how you got started in all this. Let's get to know you.
Sounds good. So my name is KK. I'm 22. So about 5 years ago. So I was 17 in college. So one day it hit me. I was kind of bored. I was like, I've got a lot of free time. Like, let me find something productive to do with this. So I go on YouTube. I'm searching, how to make money online. Then I come across Jim and Ricky, which I'm sure you're familiar with.
Income school?
Yeah, exactly. So they're in the online website space, SEO space. So that kind of resonated with me, that specific business model. So I was like, cool, let me start a site. I wasn't too sure how it was going to work out. I was just, hoping for the best. I'm 17. I don't really need money, so let me just start this whole like business thing. Yes, I'm in the trenches for about seven months, just writing, and the hardest part about that is you don't know how things are going to work out because obviously with the algorithm, it takes about 6 months for things to like kick off. So, but until then, you're kind of just stabbing in the dark. So it was about 7 months of like pure. It was like working every day after college. Then about 5 months into it, traffic starts to tick up. So I'm like, oh shit, this like it actually works. Like this stuff actually works. So I hit about 50k visits a month, which means you can apply for Mediavine,
Mhm.
which is an ad network for anyone who doesn't know. So yeah, so they allow ads on your site at about 50k visits per month. So I apply, I get in, and I start making um about 10 $10 a day, so 300 a month. So that's initial off the bat. Then
Hey, it's
about
17 or 18. I mean, that's pretty good, Like it's hard to complain about that. I was not making
yeah,
$300 a day, $300 a
yeah,
month. Sorry. I mean, when I was thinking I was 17.
yeah, exactly. So I was quite young. So I was happy. So very quickly, about 3 months into it, traffic just, we could say, exploded, which means obviously revenue went up. So from there, went up to about $3,000 a month. A few more months after that, so I'm on about 8,000 per month. So I ride that wave. A Google algorithm update hits, so revenue drops. So I'm like, damn. Okay, so what do we do now? So obviously, when an update hits, it's kind of hard to, you don't know what to change about your website to make it better. So I'm just clueless for months. Things are down. I'm like, let me hold off on this for a while. Like, let me just leave this. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. It's still making thousands per month, about 3,000 a month. I'll just let it do its thing. So I started another business on the side. So I started an agency it was servicing e-commerce brands. Yeah, so servicing e-commerce brands doing about 50 to 150,000 per month. So we do their advertising for them very quickly. That takes off. In about 6 months, I'm doing 30 grand a month with that. So things are going well. I'm chilling.
Now,
Yeah.
are you in college at this time as well? Are you taking
No,
classes?
so this all happens until I'm about 20.
Okay. Okay.
So everything I've just went through was um yeah, so the whole algorithm thing, that was about 2 years into it. A
Wow.
few months later, I start the agency. So I'm about 20 now. Agency takes off, run that for a few months. Then some iOS 14 update comes out with Facebook that came out last year, makes it harder to get results for the brands I was working things. So things drop down slightly. So now I go back to the website. I'm like, I do. So my brother he also lives with me. So he's kind of been researching this whole thing for a while. Then he's like, your website is like, it's really bad. So I'm like, why? He's like, your content is very thin, doesn't provide much value. Plus, there's so much keywords out there that you could easily rank for that. I'm not sure why you haven't kind of gone for them. Like, you should be making a lot more with this site. So I take a deep dive for about a week. I'm like, what have I been doing here? Like, I could have made this. The site could have been a lot bigger than it is now, but yeah, I could have. I could have been doing a lot over these past uh, few months, years, whatever it was. It's all a bit blurry, but yeah. So he kind of tells me, you know, improve the content, put it in console, look at what it's ranking for, bump up the word count a bit, make it more, helpful. Then, this is what you should be writing about. So everything just clicks. I'm like, I must have been blind. Like, it all makes sense. So I'm like, um, so for a few months, I was like, let me just update all the content. So at the point where, so before I went back to the site, I was on about 250 visits a month. So in my eyes, it's a lot, but it's not a lot at the same time, which might be weird for some people. But yeah, so that was a bit. Yeah, so I was on about 200 visits a month. I go through about 400 posts,
Wow.
update all of them. Word counts go from like 700 to like 1.7K. Not that there needs to be a specific word count, but there was just so much I missed out within those posts that, yeah, that naturally the word count went up. So I update all of them. Traffic goes to like 600,000 a month. So then I realized that, damn, like updating your content is extremely important, especially if you haven't done it for a very long time, for over a year, reaching 2 years. So I'm like, okay, now I've updated everything, let me go and kind of write more content. I don't know how much I've actually forgotten your initial question. I don't know how much I'm rambling on here, but
Well, you're walking us through where we're at today, which is a fascinating journey. I really enjoy hearing, because I feel like there's two types of people who find this success online. One follows a path sort of like you, although usually about 20 years later in life, for the record. Congratulations
thank you.
on your success at such a young age. But following a path where you almost accidentally stumble into that first initial success, and then through maybe happenstance or through landing back in it, you learn about what you need to do to take it to the next level, which clearly you kind of landed on Mediavine without even really knowing what you were doing, it sounds like. And then over the course of the following years, you really learned how to grow it.
Yeah, exactly that.
Now, you were about to go into how you started targeting these new keywords, and I'm curious about that. I mean, it sounds like, if I were recapping, you basically got your initial website up to around 600,000 page views just from writing your initial content and then going back and updating it. Is that accurate? Before you kind of started really writing new articles focused on keywords that you had done SEO research for?
Yeah, so I made sure I had a solid foundation before I tried writing anything new. So updated about 400 posts, then got to about 600 visits, 600,000 visits per month from about 200,000. So yeah, so updating did a lot for the site.
Can you unpack a little bit more? You kind of mentioned a little bit. You went into GSC, Google Search Console, and looked up keywords and did some research there. But could you unpack a little bit more about maybe what an average update looked like for an article, and so we can kind of learn from that? I imagine there's a lot of people out there that have some old content, whether it's on a website they're focused on, or maybe they let kind of die off, or they got discouraged from an update. What did you do on a per post type of basis to update these articles?
Yeah, so let me give you like kind of the secret, not secret, but kind of the source to how I did it. So I'll take the URL. You want to go into Google Search Console. Yeah, so you go into the section that has all your posts. You guys can figure that out. You plug in the URL. Then you want to look back at 3 months.
Okay.
Look back at the data for 3 months. Then you want to click on the impressions tab, and you want to sort it from highest to lowest. So the impressions tab tells you what impressions the post is getting. So you sort it from highest to lowest. Then, so the highest impressions that people are searching for, that your post comes up for in the search terms, is what you want to make the title of the post. This is in about 80 to 90% of cases. So if it just sounds completely off, then it clearly doesn't make sense. But you'll notice that what you're getting the highest impressions for is also what, if you changed the title to, is what it's what will get you the most traffic, because that's what people are searching. So you want to optimize it for that. So as soon as you do that, you'll notice that your click-through rate goes up. So that's the title. Now, yeah, so after you look at the first kind of the highest impressions for the post, you look at everything else it's ranking for. Then you want to look back at the post, and you'll notice that you're missing a lot of things that you haven't put in the post, that you'll be seeing in Search Console. So you look at other terms that the post is getting a lot of impressions for, then you also add them within the post itself. So based on how important that kind of search term is, you either make it a heading or you sprinkle it throughout the post. So yeah, you just want to make sure the terms that are getting the highest impressions are within that post, because that's really what's going to get you the most traffic. And obviously, if you have a bulk of posts to update, you wanna start with the posts that either haven't been updated in the longest time, or the posts that are getting the most traffic, because you obviously want to start with the low hanging fruit first. You want to make sure you're getting your kind of time's worth. So don't update, or don't start to update stuff that doesn't have potential. Start with the stuff that has potential to get the most traffic. Now, so you want to repeat this process for all of your posts, not all of them, but the ones that have potential. And over about 3 months, you'll see that your click-through rate on Google Search Console over the past, when you look at a 3 months view, you'll see it naturally increase. So mine was probably at about 1%. When I updated everything, it went, in about a few months, it went up to about 5%, which is a
Wow,
huge
that's
uh,
5x.
a huge increase. I don't know how accurate that is, but that's what I can remember from memory. But yeah, so
Let me ask
that's
you a question about that, because I feel like, well, let me get your opinion. So you had this, I mean, doing that across 400 articles, that's a ton of work.
yeah.
And that's had to have taken months to do. When you
Mm,
look back on like the 400 or so, do you
mm.
feel like most of your articles that you were making adjustments to, the title was pretty close to what you ended up adjusting it to? Or meaning like maybe you just had a little bit of the wrong keyword phrasing, but generally speaking, you had the right title? Or did you find a lot of times that you made fairly dramatic changes to the titles,
Good
which
question.
ended up having a big impact? Like, I'm curious.
Yeah, so in most cases, it wasn't completely off, but it was off to the point that when you change it, you're gonna notice it. I noticed a huge increase. So yeah, I'd say it was fairly off. But now I'm so good at knowing what the search time would be. When I look back at data, it's pretty much, it's bang on. But yeah, you guys will notice a huge, if you're not if you haven't done this before, you'll notice that you were fairly off. Not completely, but fairly off, yeah.
I will say that when I will go back and maybe look at an article of mine that has dropped, say, it used to be one of my higher performing articles, and then you'll just notice it kind of slips out of the top 10 for your page, and then it's slipping
Yeah.
down to number 15. I'll go pop it into like an Ahrefs, and I'll look at an Ahrefs will tell you the keyword that's bringing in the most traffic, and it's a third party tool. Google Search Console is better, by the way, but if you just pop it into Ahrefs, you kind of get an idea for what that number one keyword is. Man, it always blows me away. It's like, I didn't
Yeah,
target that.
exactly.
That's not the keyword I'm
Yeah.
targeting.
yeah, sometimes it's literally ranking for something completely different. Then you kind of optimize the post to make it relevant to that. Then yeah, so you will notice that sometimes.
So I should have asked you this out of the gate, but I wanted to dive in to some of these things that I got stuck on your updating content. Tell us where the site is today. Anything you're comfortable sharing, if you're comfortable sharing generally what niche it's in, how much you're earning right now per month, maybe page views, traffic, total number of articles, just to give everyone a framework for where you've now taken this site over the course of 4 years.
Okay, so right now the traffic has gone from about 600,000 per month to 1.2 million, and that's been in about four to 5 months of writing new posts. So all those new posts has got me to about 1.2 million. And in terms of how much that is making, it's about, I think, 18,000 per month. So depending on what niche you're in, you will notice that the RPMs might be vastly different. So they're at about, RPMs are about 18, 17, 16, around there. So it might be low or high, depending on what niche you're in. And yeah, so in terms of what niche the site is in, it's in the troubleshooting space. In the troubleshooting tech space is how much I'll give. So yeah, so
Good for you. How many articles are you at now? With, I mean, you had the 400 you updated, I think roughly, and then you're writing a ton of new content to get that 1.2 million right now. What number of articles are you at?
1.3K. So
Okay.
1,300. So about a thousand more, a thousand more articles have been written to
Are
get
you are
to
you
that
writing all
stage.
these yourself?
Not me personally, no. That
Okay, I was
that
gonna
that
ask,
would be impossible, yeah.
I was gonna say
So
you're an animal.
yeah, exactly. So I have like a team of like entry level writers. So the cost isn't high. I've kept the cost to a minimum. So yeah, so the problem with hiring for a low amount is obviously writers aren't as good, but you can compensate and you can kind of offset that with how you brief them. So I make sure the briefs are extremely detailed. I basically do most of the research, and their job is to kind of double check that and obviously write the content. So that's one way to get around paying, extortionate prices, I think anyway, for content, especially in my niche as well. So I understand, uh, you know, other niches like the health niche, it being expensive for content, but especially my niche, yeah, you can definitely, it doesn't have to cost a huge amount to produce content.
I'm curious. I want to come back to how you handle this amount of content at scale, but just to
Mm.
further round out, kind of what we were just talking about in terms of the numbers, the traffic, the revenue. At 1,300 posts, like that's a lot of articles to manage and to keep track of. Like, is it that maybe a few of the articles are bringing in a lot of the traffic, or is the traffic pretty spread across a lot of these articles? I'm just trying to get my mind wrapped around how
Yeah,
the traffic comes into this number of articles.
very good question. So, in terms of, okay, so there are about 1,000 new posts. Let's round it up. So you will always find, this is, I think this is a rule in general anyway, about 20% of the articles bring in 80% of the traffic.
Yep.
Now,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. I'm sure you see that as well. So that's not me saying, oh, 800 posts were a waste of money, because they're still, yeah. So as you kind of, as the like percentage increases, you find that a huge amount of the articles bring in more of the traffic. Then you'll find that some don't perform particularly as well. But to check how many posts are bringing in traffic, you can go on Google Analytics, go on a day's view, so like yesterday, and at the bottom, um, and also you can filter out posts that aren't getting a specific amount of traffic. So for yesterday, for example, I could filter out posts that didn't get at least 3 people. So that will tell you, that will get rid of like searches and bots and stuff. So yeah, so it will tell you. So for example, for me, it tells me 1.2 thousand articles are bringing in traffic, which is basically 900 of the 1,000. So pretty much all of them are bringing in traffic, but again, you'll find that about 20% are bringing in the bulk of the traffic. And top posts, up until recently, there was one post bringing in about 5,000 people a day. So it can get kind of ridiculous, but yeah, you'll notice only a small percentage of bringing in most of the traffic.
Yep, that's normal. That's normal.
Completely, yeah.
That's how these things go. I was curious because that's kind of how it goes at 100 articles. That's kind of how it goes at 500 articles.
Exactly, yeah.
Sounds like that's kind of how it goes at 1,300 articles.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, let's talk about how you found this number of keywords to go after. I'm curious about your keyword research process, if you don't mind sharing. And a lot of this is pretty new. You were saying most of these new articles are fairly new. So maybe walk us through how you find these keywords, how you figure out which ones to write, which ones not to write, and then maybe how you share writing instructions for your writers.
Yeah, so I'd say in terms of SEO, this is the most like important kind of thing you have to get right. Like if you don't get this right, your success is not gonna it's not gonna happen. So in terms of what to write, now in terms of so you need to gauge how much traffic each post or each keyword is going to bring in. So I aim for nothing less than 30 people per day, which is 1,000 visits per month per post. So first of all, you want to set how much traffic you actually want. So I think 30 people per day, 1K visits per month per keyword is what you should be going for. A bit less is okay. So when you choose a keyword, you want to actually make sure you can actually rank for that keyword, because if you can't rank for it, you're going to waste money or time on the article. So to check if you can actually rank for it, you want to check this is how I check for it. So you want to check your domain authority. I don't know what Ahrefs calls it, but they have a free tool that allows you to check your, I think, domain rank. So
rating, domain rating. Yeah.
Domain rating. Okay. Yeah. So you check your domain rating. Mine's about around 30. So once you've got your domain rating, you now so you know what your capabilities are in terms of how you can rank. Now, when it comes to keywords, there are a few ways to find them. So you've got forums, places like Quora and Reddit. You've also got YouTube, other sites as well. Then you've got your keyword tools like SEMrush, which is what I use, and Ahrefs. So those are kind of the 5 ways to look for search terms. So I'll run through each of the 5 ways briefly.
Perfect.
So how you find what to write. So first one was Quora. Now, okay, so I'll do it. So you want to also have a keyword tool in place for this. So this is for Quora and Reddit. So you get Quora.com, you plug it into, so you go in the organic research section in SEMrush. I think you can kind of translate what I'm saying for Ahrefs as well. But yeah, so you go in the organic research section, you plug in Quora.com, then you have these filters that allows you. So first you can set the keyword difficulty. So what it's going to do is going to uncover all the URLs Quora.com's ranking for. So you filter this out for keyword difficulty. Now, depending on your domain rating, you change the difficulty based on that. So for example, mine's about 30. So I aim for keywords no more than, if I'm trying to make it easy for myself, I keep the domain rank. This is specifically for SEMrush. I keep the domain rank below 25. And that will, and this isn't a solid way to gauge how hard it is to rank, because of a few reasons, such as, let's say, an apple.com forum is also ranking where Quora's ranking, but you can beat the forum, but just because it's apple.com, the keyword difficulty will be sky high,
Right.
which isn't true. So you also want to double check things. You do not want to rely on the keyword difficulty thing. So it gives you a general idea. So
It's just like a filter to get rid of some of the
tougher stuff.
just the toughest stuff. But just because you
Exactly.
now have your list doesn't mean you just target every one of these now. You need to do more.
Exactly. You have to do more. Yeah. So I keep it below 25. If your domain rank is a lot less, keep it below 20 or 15. If it's higher, you obviously move it up a bit, but the lower it is, the easier it will be to rank in general cases. Then to double check it as well. So once you've filtered it out for so it's removed all the harder keywords. Now, SEMrush also allows you to add keywords that you want to filter as well. So let's say I had a pet website and I wanted to talk about dogs, for example. I'll make sure the terms it brings, the keywords or URLs it brings back, is solely about dogs, or cats, or let's say you're writing about TVs, you filter it specifically, you just write TV. So it should only include URLs or search terms with the keyword TV. If you want to go more specific, you can say Samsung, for example. So so you do this. Now it will bring back everything that includes the words, dog, and it will have removed all the hard stuff to rank for. Now you've got a bunch of keywords. Now Quora actually lets you see how many views each kind of answer within that specific question has got.
Oh yeah, it's a good point.
Yeah. So what you want to do is you only look at, so you click the URL for all the URLs it's given back, and you now want to analyze each URL to see, should I rank for this? So you go on the first URL. You want to make sure that kind of keywords that forum is ranking for, or that specific URL is ranking for, has averaged about 30 visits or 1,000 visits per month, 30 visits per day, 1,000 visits per month. And so let's say, so Quora will give you the year of when the answer for that question was written. And let's say it says 1 year ago, and it says 12,000 views. That will, in most cases, will let you know that, it's receiving about 1,000 views per month. If it's 2 years ago that the answer was written, it will say you want to look for 24,000 visits
Right.
a month, because that's about 1,000 per year. So the more recent the answer was, the kind of more accurate that data will be. So if it's about 4 years ago and it's still spitting back about, I think, is it 36,000 visits, which would, no,
48.
48,000.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which will be about 1K visits per month. I'd be a bit wary of it because I don't know if a bulk of those views were years
Right.
ago or
3 years ago or something.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the other views on the other answers for that specific URL will also help you judge how accurate it is. So you wouldn't
That's
understand much from what I'm saying. You actually have to go and core and you'll see this
That's gold. It's
for
almost like getting
yourself.
a sneak peek at their analytics, in a
Exactly.
way. You don't get to see it over
Mm,
every month, but you get an idea for what core articles are actually getting eyeballs, which is kind of the gold nugget of keyword research. If you could just understand which ones actually get eyeballs, you'd be
yeah,
much further ahead. That's really cool. Had
yeah.
never thought about that.
Thank you, man. Yeah, exactly. Should I go into the others?
Oh,
Okay,
please.
so
Yeah, we got four more to go here. We've already got a gold
okay,
nugget. We got four more to
yeah,
go.
okay, yeah. So that was for Quora.com. Now to do this for Reddit, you do the same thing with the filters and the exact thing you want it to bring up your URLs for. So, for example, dogs and keyword difficulty below 25. So you do all of that. For Reddit, it doesn't tell you how many views it's got. It tells you how many comments it's received. So the more recent the answer or the question was asked, the more accurate it will be. So if you're seeing this specific question was answered or asked about 3 months ago and there's about 60 comments, you know for sure that if you write that keyword, you're going to get traffic. So what I now there isn't it's a slightly more harder, but to make sure that you're kind of accurate every time, you want to go for very recent. So within about a year, you can do more, but okay, so you can, it doesn't really matter how old the question is. It matters how recent the comments or the replies were for that question. So if you're seeing something is 3 years old, but there's loads of comments that are like, oh, 7 days ago, a month ago, you know it's still getting traffic. So you just want to look for several recent comments on that question, and that will tell you it's getting traffic. So that's for Reddit. Now, for other websites, you just want to go to a website in your niche, similar DR domain rated. You plug it in. I don't know. Some people might not find this ethical, but this is business. So you plug in that site into SEMrush or Ahrefs. You look at all the um, things they're ranking for. Then obviously that you can, steal some of their keywords. I think everyone does this to each other. So yeah, if you're
You
completely
wouldn't be the
unaware of
first to
this,
have suggested something like that. So I
yeah, exactly. I hope not. And the others I said were YouTube. Now, sometimes when you search something in Google, one of the results is YouTube. So if you can see someone has made a YouTube video with the exact kind of keywords, then you check how many views that YouTube video has gotten, and you want to make sure again it averages about 1K per month. Then to make sure that's um, if the video is older, then and you're a bit more skeptical, you check for recent comments
right.
like Reddit. So yeah, that's how it goes with. That's how I do keyword research anyway. So I hope that was helpful.
I think it's really interesting how you combine with, you went through Quora, you went through Reddit, you went through YouTube. You're combining the views, which are
Yeah,
public, and we
yeah,
don't
exactly.
see public views on
Mm,
websites,
exactly.
but we do see public views on these sites. And you're
Mm,
combining that with comments, which it's more rare nowadays to see comments on blogs or other articles or
yeah,
websites, but you're doing keyword research, you're finding the keywords, but then you're validating them even further by seeing A, are they getting enough visits over time to substantiate writing it? And B,
mm,
are they getting enough comments to where it wasn't just a social media pop or something like that? It really is more long-standing. And even though it was written maybe a little while ago, it's still ranking and getting comments to this day.
yeah,
It's real
exactly.
fascinating. There's some really good stuff.
Cheers.
Anything else you're doing when it comes to, you mentioned I think number 4 and number 5 was other websites, and then keyword tools. Anything kind of unique there, or is that a little bit more plug and play?
Yeah. So, oh yeah. So other websites. Yeah. So if you search the term and you click on a result for another website in your niche, again, you just check for recent comments. So, like you said, it's more rare that people comment on blog posts nowadays, but it's another way to know for sure that something is getting traffic. And again, the more recent and the more comments there are, the chances are it's getting quite a bit of traffic. And what was the second thing you said?
Keyword tools. I mean, you've been talking about SEMrush.
Oh yeah, so that wasn't one of them. That was just how to
Oh,
use
okay.
keyword tools for stuff like Reddit and
Like this,
Quora.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so basically, I guess now I want to know. I figure you probably end up with a lot of keywords once you kind of really dive down this rabbit hole or rabbit. Is it
Yeah.
rabbit trail or rabbit hole? I never know if it's a trail or hole. The euphemism.
Oh yeah.
Anyways, you get a ton of keywords. How do you pick which ones to write? How do you pick which ones to go after? Is there any sorting, or are you basically just putting them all on a list? If it meets these criteria of what we just talked about, then you'll get to it at some point. You're gonna write that piece of content at some point.
Yeah. So every day I'll do exactly what I've just said, and I'll find about 10 to 15 of these keywords. Then I'll give it to the writers. So yeah, it's a if you know you're not going to be doing that many posts, you want to look for posts that have you want to do what I've said, and you want to look for posts that have the most traffic. So I said 1K per day minimum because that's quite easy to find. That's because I'm doing this at scale. But if you only want to write about 100, 200 posts, I would say aim for about 2,000 to 3,000 visits a month. So you'll find so many keywords that this will be possible. So I don't know if this is my niche specifically. If you're in another niche, you may find this harder because in my niche, things are slightly different. But yeah, so if you're doing a few articles, you wanna aim for more traffic per month per post.
Great. Makes total sense. Yeah. Everybody should take these strategies and apply them to whatever, it's going to be niche specific. It's going to be specific on how many articles you want to write, what your production capabilities are. All right. Speaking of production capabilities, so you're outsourcing a lot of this content. It sounds like either all of it or the bulk of it. What's your process like? How do you prepare your writers, and how do you maintain, your quality standards across these writers? Because you teased a bit earlier, like, hey, I'm not hiring these really high-end professional writers. I'm not paying top dollar. So clearly you have some structures in place or some way of making sure that you're getting good quality content back.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll go through the whole hiring process, how to keep the cost low and make sure the quality is still high. Yeah. So personally, I use Indeed.com to find writers. So I put up a job post. I outline the things. I make sure the outline's easy to read. I mention the things they'll need to do. I'll say I need one article. So I'm looking for people who can output a lot. So I aim for you. I say you're going to do one article per day. If you don't have to write down the articles, you can say one per week. But I say one article per day. This is how much you're being paid for it. You don't need much experience at all, but you'll have to do a trial. Whether you want that to be paid or not, that's up to you and whether they're fine with it. Then I think you have to pay a price to upload that job ads. I think minimum is $5 or $10 per day. So you let that run. In about 2 days, you'll receive. In about 3-4 days, you'll receive about 100 applicants, or that's what I receive anyway. Then from there, you wanna now filter out kind of the good and the people who just hide for the sake of it. or just people who wouldn't be that great. So you say, hi, can you do, I keep the trial very low. So I ask for something very small. Say, can you do 100 word trial? So I'm just trying to figure out, one, are they actually just going to do it? Is, a lot don't, so you'd be surprised. I want to see their writing style and if it fits in with what I'm looking for. And the heading of the trial is a question. So it's something like, can a you know can a dog eat chocolate, for example? Then you're like, this is the heading, can a dog eat chocolate? 150 words. Answer the question, please. Keep it straight to the point, because I want to see if they can also listen to instructions as well. So I'm like, keep it straight to the point. Make sure you actually answer the question. Um, so so a lot of people will reply back with the either the art yeah so they'll reply back with the article. A lot of people, you'd be surprised, to actually do it. So now you want to filter out the good from the bad. So you'll notice that some actually answer the question, which is what you're looking for. So they'll be like, yes or no, dogs cannot eat chocolate. um, if they do eat excess amount of chocolate, uh, they could become ill. Um, this is why. They've actually answered. Like, if you're reading that as a user, you'll be happy. Some, they'll give you an intro. Oh, this article is about dogs and chocolate, blah blah. Like, you've only got 150 words. An intro is the last thing you should be doing. Some don't even answer the question. They'll just be um, like, it's historically been known that chocolate is not good for dogs, blah blah, which is okay, but you kind of want what's optimum for the user. So the user is going to be most happy with, no, a dog cannot eat chocolate, because you want to get your answer quickly. So this is just general. I know there's more to it, but I only gave these guys about 100 words, so they need to get to the point. So from there, you can see their tone, style. You know what you're happy with. So you filtered. So you filtered the good, not good, but they're easy to work with writers from the. You're gonna have a lot of headache writers. Then from there, I'm like, I use Trello.com as my kind of as my management tool. That's why I give them the topics to write. So I plug in the topics in the assignment column, then they drag it into the to-do column. Then when they're done, they drag it to the done column, attach the article. Then I have someone that publishes it onto the site. So that's the whole process. Now, for when you hire someone, you want to use a plagiarism software, either Grammarly Premium or Copyscape Premium, I think. So um, you want to check that they're not plagiarizing. So every week or so, or every 15 days, you want to check at least one article to make sure, okay, they're sticking to the rules here. They're not trying to look for. You're not paying these guys. Well, if you're trying to keep the costs low, you're going to find a lot of people try and, you know, they try and make it easier for themselves to make up for that. I think even when you pay a premium, you're still going to experience this. So yeah, you want to make sure they're not plagiarizing. You also want to check the subs to make sure that they're keeping things original, that they're not just kind of spinning stuff. Um, and if you found that a writer has done that, you're like, you first obviously you let them know it's not allowed. If they do it, this is your last warning. If they do it again, you find someone else. Because if you've said it once and they're still doing it, they're still gonna, continue doing it. So yeah, so that's how you make sure nothing kind of goes wrong. And in terms of the brief, I give them the kind of word count I'm looking for. So that will change depending on the topic. Then you want to give them each heading, or yeah, each heading that you want in the article. Well, this is what I do. Then in brackets, you kind of, if it's something they wouldn't kind of know about, or there's not, that you're an expert in that and they're not going to find the answer anywhere. In brackets, you kind of tell them what to talk about, because in my niche specifically, I know a lot of things that you're not going to find on Google. So in brackets, I just tell them, make sure you say this, then that's their brief done. So it makes it a lot easier for them. It's a way to keep the price low. And yeah, that's kind of the whole process.
I
In
love the
terms of,
tips you shared in hiring.
yeah,
Frankly, that's really nice because, I mean, in reality, you don't need 1,000-word test article to get a sense for if they.
absolutely not. Yeah.
In many ways, you're right. Like if you
Mm.
give someone 1,000-word article as a test, they could actually answer the question, but still waffle in the intro
Yeah,
and still make a
exactly.
mess of the rest of it. And you don't get as much of a sense for it. But when you give
No,
them, hey, you got 100 words, give me your
exactly.
best shot. Like I love
Mm,
that. You
yeah,
you can tell right away when someone's going to waste 40 words of the 100 on,
yeah.
some waffling opening
Very
sentence or
true.
something like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you're preparing briefs, like a lot that made sense, you talk about plagiarism checking. Are you
Mm.
checking all the articles just in terms of the content before they go live? Or are they going straight to a publisher and then you kind of double check work? Maybe after it's gone live, you're kind of just circling back on some writers here and there.
Okay, so when I was uploading content from the done column in Trello, so when I was uploading that, when I was doing it, which is about a few weeks ago, I would read through the article very quickly to make sure
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually happy with it. In most cases, I am. If I see something is not quite right, I drag it back into the doing column. I message the writer on Slack, which is a messaging platform specifically for business. I'm like, hey, change this up. They'll do it quickly. They'll drag it back. Then I'll re-upload it, make a custom image using Canva, then publish it. So I make sure the article is right, is completely checked before I hit publish.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah. I mean, again, you're managing a lot of content at scale. So it's very interesting to see like the processes that you have in place. And I think a lot of
Yeah.
people can learn from that, even if they aren't, yeah, if they're looking to just bring on their first writer or something.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about, it sounds like you're writing a lot of articles that are maybe, answering specific questions where somebody,
Yes.
yeah, like they're kind of this, hey, I have this problem. You
Mm,
mentioned troubleshooting. So I have this problem that I need
mm.
an answer to. How are you building out the articles once you answer the question, especially if you're instructing your writers to be as direct and helpful as you are, you probably get through that answer pretty quickly. What does the rest of an article look like in that scenario?
Okay, yeah, that's a good question, because you'll find that so let's say it's a specific question. You're like, this only takes about 300 words.
Yeah.
I'm never gonna rank. Like, what else do I say whilst keeping it extremely relevant? So I'm actually giving the user what they want. So the first kind of heading you want. So let's say it's a brief question like, can dogs eat
Eat
chocolate?
chocolate, right?
Yeah, you start with that as the first heading. You actually answer the question straight away. Then from there, the next heading. So rather than trying to figure it out yourself, you want to search that question into Google. Then in the people also ask questions, in people also asked section, you'll see similar questions that people have asked around that specific um, question. Then if it's relevant, you add that as a heading. You can also look at the bottom where I think it's related searches that Google provides. Again, if those are relevant, add that to the article. So that's if you don't want to do much thinking, but specifically for the can dogs eat chocolate, how I would do it is can dogs eat chocolate? Answer the question. Um, what will happen if my dog eats chocolate? You explain everything that will happen. You provide subheadings for the specific things that will happen. You can go a little bit more in depth there. Then you can say, what is it in chocolate that is bad for my dog? Then you obviously explain what it is in chocolate that's bagged for a dog. Then next thing I'd say is, my dog, I accidentally gave my dog chocolate. What do I do? Then you explain everything they should do if they actually gave their dog chocolate. Um, then yeah, another thing could be, my dog ate chocolate, but he's fine. You can be like, oh, sometimes nothing happens to them, blah blah. So yeah, so off the bat, that's kind of how you go about structuring an answer that could have been extremely simple. That's how you take something that could have been 200, 300 words to 2,000 plus words. And obviously words, as Google have said, isn't a ranking factor. I don't know how much, uh, you know, of truth that is, could not be, but obviously the more in-depth you go, typically the more the user will be happy with the content, and the more you fulfill within what the user's actually looking for. So yeah, so the more in-depth something is, the better it should do in most cases. Yeah.
You have either written that specific article before,
Never written it.
or you're really good. You clearly
Thank you.
spend a
Yeah.
lot of time in keyword research and briefs.
Yeah.
Just rattled off what sounds like a really
Yeah.
good article.
Yeah, I've done that. I've done this. So I do this about 10 times a day. So that was quite easy for me.
That
But
is,
yeah.
man, you must eat, drink, and sleep this stuff, because that just
Yeah.
rattled right off the tongue really well.
Yeah. Thank you.
um, Let me transition a little bit as we kind of start to wrap up. Like, what do you have planned for this site going forward? And like, what's next for this site, maybe over the course of the next year or so?
Okay. So next, over the course of the next year, now, yeah. So this might sound crazy, but I'm just trying to take it into the millions. I don't know how, may happen, may not. I don't know how easy it is to do in this landscape, especially with updates. Another issue I'm coming across is finding actual keywords themselves. I'm still finding them, but once you've kind of once you've hit a specific point, you're like, okay, now it takes slightly more longer to look for keywords, and yeah, you struggle a bit more. I still think I can do it, but yeah, so the aim is to follow the same process, write more articles, take the traffic into the millions. I'm hoping maybe in the next year I hit about 3 million. We could look back in a year, I've completely flopped. It may have happened, I'll never know, but based on what I've done, I will just follow the same thing and hope I can scale um, that much. So yeah, so the goal is to take it into the millions. Um, yeah, so, and of course generate a lot more revenue. Hopefully minimum about 50,000 per month. Hopefully end goal is 100,000 per month plus. Yeah, I can't predict the future, but I can control what I'm doing to get there. So yeah, so, and another thing making it harder is Google's regular updates. So I think updates, yeah, I think it's a waste of time going or being scared about updates, because I think eventually they will hit everyone. So what I found over the last 4 years I've been doing this is, some updates you get hit. Some days your traffic randomly just goes up for no reason. Google has just blessed you. Some updates, it brings your traffic up. Some updates, it brings them down. But you should kind of always be ranking where, if you look back over a few years, it should kind of average out, and you should be ranking where you should be ranking based on your domain rating, how well you've chosen things or topics to write about. And if you're actually following Google's guidelines. So if you're doing all of that, you will still get hit in most cases. Not in most cases, most people who do SEO will get hit at some point, but at other points you'll also be rewarded. Just make sure you're following the guidelines. And yeah, that's all you can kind of control.
You've been all in on this one website, it sounds like, and you've managed to avoid something that so many other website builders, whether by design or kind of by accident, slip into, which is starting other websites. And again, I'm not saying that in a negative way.
Mhm.
Sometimes that's the strategy for some people, whereas others prefer to stay focused on one site. Would you ever continue to run this website and then start another one? Or do you want to stay 100% focused on this project until you change your mind about it?
Yeah, so funny you say that. So I actually I started a new site. So this is while I was updating the content. I was like, let me just start a new site, see if I can kind of replicate this process. Um, got to about, and it's still at about 35,000 visits per month in a
Mm-hmm.
different niche. But yeah, still makes about 700 a month. I haven't touched that site in about a year, but I would say I not that I regret making it, but if if you've got one site that can be scaled, there's literally no point making a new one if obviously your sole aim is making money. If you've got one site that has its proof of concept, follow the steps I've kind of taken to grow it, or just focus on that site. Because if you can't make it work, uh, so let's say the site's not doing well. If you can't make it work for that one, chances are you're not going to make it work for another. And also, if you've got a site that's working well, you have history there. You have your domain is strong. You, you're meant to capitalize on the opportunity. You like it is easier for you to continue on that site than to start afresh on a new website that's going to take 1 year plus to start making money. It's I wouldn't yeah I mean people have their reasons for doing it, but in terms of how I see it, if you haven't maxed out a site, like actually maxed out a site, it's kind of a waste of time to make a new one if your sole aim is income, is my take on it.
Yeah. Well, clearly you're reaping the rewards from your focus. I mean,
Yeah.
that's funny. You had actually started one last year.
Yeah.
I didn't
It
know
was
that.
about it was about 2 years. Yeah, it was. I can't even. It was about 2 years ago. Yeah.
Well, it's great. It's still earning money,
Yeah.
but
Exactly.
yeah, you've clearly doubled down on this and reaped the rewards from it. Man, what a wonderful deep dive. We only talked about a couple of topics in the hour, but you really went so in depth on them. I took a bunch of notes: keyword research, content updating, hiring writers, and a bunch of other things, but certainly those things that really stuck out on my notes. Thank you so much for coming on board. Man, what a treat it was to have you. Congratulations on your success.
Thank you.
Again, just you got the world in front of you, man. I'm so excited for you. Where can people follow along with what you're doing and get in touch if they want?
Just follow me on Twitter. So you can link my Twitter below. Just follow me on there, ask any questions, and that's pretty much it.
I'll put it in the show notes just in case people are listening and have a great memory. It's at KK6743.
Yeah.
So we'll leave it there. Thank you so much, KK. It was a treat. I'm really excited for your success. Thanks for sharing so many details behind how you got there. And man, I hope for so much more for you coming forward.
Thank you very much, man. It was a pleasure doing this interview with you.
Did you know that texting is the most convenient way to reach your customers? We talk a lot about email marketing here on the podcast, but I often hear many of you say, hey, I don't really even open a majority of the emails I get. You also hear of social media marketing as being a great way to reach your customers, but we know that really only a small fraction of your audience will ever even see your posts. But what about text messages all at once? You can have two-way conversations with them, and you can trigger automated text messages for things like appointment reminders, text for info programs, sending files back and forth, pretty much anything that you can think of. Plans with simple texting start at $29 a month, but you can get a special promo by being a Niche Pursuits listener. Text niche to 823-2TRY-SMS, and you'll get an additional 500 credits added to your simple texting account. Let me read that to you again. Text niche to 833-287-9767, and you'll get an additional 500 credits with simple texting.